I never thought I'd be the kind of person to go to war with HR. You know how on Reddit people always talk about HR not being your friend? I used to roll my eyes at that. I figured, hey, HR's job is to keep the workplace fair, right? If something goes wrong, they'll step in. Well, I learned the hard way that HR doesn't always play fair, especially if you're not one of their favorites. For context, I work at a mid-sized tech company, not a giant like Google, but big enough that we had entire departments for HR, compliance, IT, all that. I was hired as a project coordinator about 3 years ago. My job was basically to be the glue between teams, making sure engineering hit deadlines, marketing had what they needed, and everyone was on the same page. It wasn't glamorous, but I liked it. I liked knowing that if I did my job well, the whole machine ran smoother. Enter Janet, our HR manager. She'd been there forever and liked to remind people of it. She was one of those people who could turn on the fake office mom energy when executives were around, smiling, supportive, constantly talking about our family culture. But with everyone else, she was a different person. She had favorites, and if you weren't one of them, good luck. At first, I didn't think much of it. I was too busy learning my role and getting used to the pace of the company. But then I started noticing small things. Like, a guy in sales would openly miss deadlines or crack wildly inappropriate jokes, and Janet would laugh it off as, "Oh, that's just how he is." Meanwhile, a woman on my team once asked for a day to catch up on onboarding because her laptop wouldn't connect to the VPN, and Janet lectured her for 20 minutes about professionalism. It wasn't my circus, not my monkeys, so I stayed quiet. But slowly, I realized I wasn't in Janet's good graces either. And that's when things got interesting. The first red flag was a missed invite. There was a meeting about restructuring our project management tools. Everyone on my team got an invite except me. I only found out about it because one of the engineers casually asked, "Hey, what did you think of Janet's suggestions in the meeting?" I had no idea what he was talking about. When I asked Janet later, she gave me the sugary smile and said, "Oh, I must have forgotten. You seem so busy. I didn't want to overload you." Weird, but fine. Then it happened again. A compliance update went out to all team leads, except me. Then another time, she left me off an all-hands email about PTO changes. Every time, she brushed it off like it was nothing, but I noticed a pattern. Every time I miss information, she'd later make a comment about me being out of the loop or not communicating properly. At first, I doubted myself. Was I missing things? Was I not paying enough attention? But I'm meticulous by nature. I live by my calendar. If an invite isn't there, I know it. That's when I started saving things. I set up folders in my email just for Janet. Every time something like this happened, I dragged the evidence in there. Meeting requests that skipped me, policy updates that went to others, screenshots of messages showing I was included. It felt a little paranoid, but something told me I'd need it. The real kicker came at performance review time. My direct supervisor, who I'll call Mark, was great. He'd given me consistent feedback all year, and it was overwhelmingly positive. When we sat down for the review, he said, "I really appreciate your attention to detail. You've improved cross-team communication, and I want to start grooming you for leadership." I was over the moon. Until I saw the written report. Buried in there were notes about me being abrasive and having difficulty collaborating with cross-department staff. I was floored. I asked Mark about it, and he looked confused. "That's not my feedback," he said. "HR adds their section. I didn't write that." That's when it clicked. Janet was deliberately trying to sabotage me. I don't know why. Maybe she saw me as competition to one of her favorites. Maybe she didn't like me personally. Whatever the reason, she'd made me a target. So I kicked my documentation into overdrive. Every email, every chat log, every thank you message from a coworker went into my little archive. If someone said, "Thanks for catching that deadline, you saved us," I saved it. If someone complimented me in Slack, I screenshotted it. Then came the big project rollout. This was a monster project that had eyes from VP level. I was coordinating across 3 departments. Everything was on track, deadlines were solid, and people were happy with communication. Then, out of nowhere, Janet reassigned one of my key team members without telling me. I only found out when the guy didn't show up to a crucial sync. I messaged him and he said, "Oh, HR moved me to another project. Didn't they tell you?" Nope. That one move set off a domino effect of delays. Suddenly, senior leadership was breathing down our necks. And who did Janet blame? Me. She claimed I hadn't communicated properly, that people were confused because I didn't keep everyone aligned. What she didn't know was that I had emailed her twice asking for a confirmation about that team member's status. Both times she ignored me. And of course, I saved those emails. At this point, I decided to loop Mark in. I showed him the emails, the screenshots, the calendar invites I never got. His eyes widened. "I knew something was off," he said. "I've seen Janet do this to others, but I've never had proof. You've got a solid case." He agreed to let it play out. I'd keep documenting. If Janet tried to throw me under the bus, we'd be ready. And boy, did she try. Over the next month, she ramped up the sabotage. She accused me of being late to meetings. I had login timestamps showing I was on time. She claimed I didn't respond to emails. I had replies with clear dates and times. She even tried to say I'd upset someone with my tone, but I had chat logs showing the conversation was polite and professional. By the time the big leadership meeting rolled around, my folder on Janet was practically a novel. In the meeting, she went for the jugular. She pulled up slides showing miscommunications and unclear directives and pinned them all on me. She looked so smug, like she'd already won. Then the VP asked me to explain. I stayed calm. I didn't raise my voice. I just opened my laptop and walked them through a timeline. Here's the email I sent asking about the reassignment. Here's the lack of reply. Here's the message showing I wasn't invited to the meeting. Here's the chat log showing I was, in fact, polite and collaborative. The room went dead quiet. Janet's face drained of color. She tried to mumble something about misunderstandings, but the VP wasn't buying it. He asked her, point blank, why she'd reassigned staff without informing the project lead. She didn't have an answer. After the meeting, things moved fast. Mark pushed for an internal review of HR practices. And once word got out that Janet wasn't invincible, other employees started coming forward. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd mess with. People shared stories about her covering for favorites, unfairly disciplining others, even shutting down legitimate complaints. Within a month, she was transitioned out. The official line was that she resigned to pursue other opportunities. But everyone knew the truth. As for me, the VP personally thanked me for handling things professionally. Mark gave me the highest rating possible on my review. 6 months later, I was promoted into a senior coordinator role. But honestly, the best part wasn't the promotion. It was a shift in office culture after Janet left. People seemed lighter, less on edge. HR actually started doing its job. And the look on Janet's face in that meeting, when she realized her empire of favoritism was collapsing, that's burned into my memory forever. They say HR isn't your friend, and they're right. But documentation? Documentation is your best friend. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.